از گندم نمونه زیادتر چپا کرد.
مگه تو مولا متخیلی واقعا داره که نظر به سال گذشته میگه شما تو باقیات یا تو نگاه کردین از تریاکای شما؟
نه خیلی نگاه کرده این تو نفره نگاه کرده که پولدار باشن مثلا ما که بی پول هستیم ما یک سری گندم ما با صدر افغانی.
I think that the Afghan farmers are incredibly smart if we assume that their standard of living is gone up. The key question is what kind of future you promise.
How can Afghanistan's dependence on the opium economy be broken? No country has ever been able to eliminate smuggling. The illegality of it makes it too profitable.
This is not Afghanistan's problem alone. The consumers are engaging in complete hypocrisy. The West is not doing its bit to cut down consumption. The West must either have the courage to legalize use of drugs or to enforce its security apparatus. We need to turn the searchlight on how is it that tons of heroin are making their way to the West, despite billions and tens of billions of dollars of expenditure on security. There must be breach. So they need to start strengthening their own security or they need to come to terms.
As Ghani points out, opium does have valid medicinal uses, and the crop could become part of the legitimate economy.
For some sections of Afghanistan, we must explore legal cultivation. India is growing it legally, France is growing it legally, Australia is growing it legally.
Ghani raised a third issue. How will the Afghan people support themselves without opium?
What is critical is to recognize the fact that countries that have an average income per capita of $1,000 do not engage in production of opium. That's the cutoff point. Our current income per capita legally is about 240.
Unlike farmers who hid their poppy crop or stopped growing it, some farmers continued to raise poppies in the open despite the government ban. Most of them had protection through family connections or by bribing local officials.
هر قریه به خود یک آمیر و مثل جمعه خانم در امیر جان و استاد تا و دوست و مؤمنات اگر شالوار هستم از بلخ است اگر قماندان امنیه هم است از بلخ است اگر ولسوال هم اینا به تنظیمات شدگی یا از طرف علم خان شده از طرف امیر جان شده شالوار هم یا از طرف استاد شده.
Corruption is rampant here. One U.S. official estimated that 90% of the local police chiefs are either directly involved in the drug trade or protecting those who are.
Some people have told us that they think that General Atta makes a lot of money from the smugglers that pay him. Does he know anything about that?
ما پیشتر اگر کدام دونمو جنه چون که ما به سواد هستیم اینا از خارج آمدن سواد دارن و مثال تاثیر چیز کردن که ما پیشتر گفتیم که یک ماه پیش به ولسوالی بلخ سرای تریاک بود به خیروارا بار میشد از قندار مردم می آمدن از هر ولایت می آمدن میجا بار میشد کدام سو میرفت سر مزار میرفت سر شبرغان میرفت.
It was too dangerous for him to name names. He said Mazar because everyone knows that Atta controls Mazar through his political party Jamiat, and that Dostum, whose party is Junbush, controls Shalygin.
Usually, if it goes from Shalygin, so that Junbush guy, the in charge, he didn't want to name the responsible guy, but the Junbush, head of the Junbush, was taking the commission, the money, and from Mazar, if it crossed from Mazar somewhere else, Kabul or Kandahar, from Jamiat was
Jamiat gets the commission.
Of course, who is Jamiat and who is Junbush, you know clearly.
Yeah,
Fahim,
Atta.
Yes, he says I cannot name them. It is shame for me to defend him.
I thank him for his honesty. I understand. I understand. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
If the opium trade was that widespread and open, I wondered to what extent Governor Atta was involved, if at all. Provincial governors are responsible for anti-narcotics programs. The UN reported that production in Atta's Balkh province more than tripled. It called on the Afghan government to remove governors where opium cultivation hasn't dropped. But Governor Atta is more powerful than Karzai in this part of the country. He led the local Jamiat militia as part of the Northern Alliance that defeated the Taliban. Last year, we talked with General Atta amid heavy security and noticed that he had replaced his army fatigues with a business suit.
General Atta, you have much experience and are well respected in this country. What role would you like to have in the next government?
من اگرش یک افسر نظامی نیستم و افسر نظامی هم نبودیم یا رشته و مسلک انتخاب نکرده بودیم. ولی ما رسالت ما ختم شده. افغانستان از شوروی از خطر تهدید کمونیسم نجات دادیم. افغانستان از خطر تهدید تروریسم نجات دادیم. حالا میخوایم که حکومت باثبات داشته باشیم و ما تغییر مسلک بدیم. برای کارهای ملکی فرهنگی و سیاسی.
General Atta is now Governor Atta, appointed by Karzai to lead Balkh province and reputed to be one of the richest men in northern Afghanistan. I asked him about the opium trade and corruption of government officials.
قاچاق پولش میره به جیب قاچاقبرا و نفع تریاک میره به جیب باندای حرفه‌ای دنیا، قاچاقبرای حرفه‌ای دنیا. پولی بسیار کمی که برای دهقان میرسه. دهقان کل مردم افغانستان دهقان نیست. در شکی نیست که اگر بازار تریاک جریان داشته باشه دهقان کسی ممانعت نکنه تریاک بکاره. در هیچ شکی نیست که قاچاقبرا رشد میکنه، پولدار میشن، از پولشون میتونه که بسیار کارا بکنه.
We're also told that many government officials are helping the smugglers because the government salaries are so low.
در شکی نیست که از مقامات دولتی، مقامات و مسئولین امنیتی و کشفی شاید ارتباط داشته باشن. و فکر نمیکنم به طوری هم شاید بعضی کس. ولی منحصر در افغانستان نمیشه. امروز شما ببینید تریاکی که دهقان اینجا میکاره تا سرحد کی میرسونه. در شکی نیست که قاچاقبرای داخلی که قدرتمند هستند. از سرحد او طرف سرحد کی میگذرونه. شاید قاچاقبرای حرفه‌ای افغان با خارجی ها یک جایی. از او طرف سرحد افغانستان تا به جاده های لندن، تا به جاده های نیویورک و واشنگتن، تا به جاده های پاریس و فرانسه و آلمان و جرمن و مسکو یا هلند و پولند کی میرسونه. واضح است که در دستگاه بزرگترین کشورهای پیشرفته دنیا هم قاچاقبرای حرفه‌ای دست داره. تنها به افغانستان. تشکر. موفق باشید.
As we left Atta's office, I saw his new fleet of Toyota Land Cruisers, and I wondered if it was bought with his government salary or private business interests. What was clear was that Atta had made the transition to politician. When we saw him at the groundbreaking of a new girls' school to be built with Japanese foreign aid, he looked positively presidential. Like General Atta, his rival, the Uzbek leader General Dostum, has turned to politics rather than rely entirely on his militia to stay in power. General Dostum ran for president against Karzai and got 10% of the vote, roughly the same percentage as ethnic Uzbeks in the country. To neutralize his power, Karzai appointed Dostum Chief of Staff of the Armed Forces, a newly created post based in Kabul. As a result, Syed Nasrullah, Dostum's top deputy, took his place as leader of Dostum's Junbush party. In 2004, we went to Junbush headquarters and met with Nasrullah to learn how Junbush was transforming itself from a military to political organization. I asked why his militia refused to disarm.
اکنون در ولایت‌های جنوب افغانستان بالفعل طالب و القاعده موجود است. بنان ما تشویش نگرانی هنوز هم داریم که خدای نخواسته نشه وضعیت امنیتی که به وجود آمده در نتیجه مداخله بقایای طالب و القاعده برهم نخورد.
It was clear that General Dostum would not allow the central government to dictate when it was safe enough to disband his private militia. He would make that decision.
علاوه از بلای تروریسم در دنیا بلای دیگه یا مصیبت آفات دیگه وجود داره که او عبارت از کشت و زر و ترافیک و قاچاق مواد مخدر است که در این راستا هم جنبش به مثابه یک جریان سیاسی سهم بسیار جدی در مبارزه علیه مواد مخدر داشت.
What exactly has Junbish been doing to do that? You said it's best efforts, but could you be more specific?
میخواستم صحبت بکنم قطع کردن یک ذره بی‌حوصله شدن. به هر صورت ما گروه‌های را آماده ساختیم و دورترین نقاطی از ولایت‌های شمال رفتن بالفعل اونجا عملا در قطع این اشجار دست دادن و این اقدام کردن محو کردن.
Orloff frequently took this same road between Shalygin and Mazar. The opium fields were in full bloom and impossible to miss. We saw Jumbush soldiers in the fields. Despite what Orloff said, we didn't see any obstacles to cultivation. Warlords may become politicians in the new Afghanistan, but as the United Nations confirms, many have kept their day jobs as drug lords. Will the power of drug money kill Afghanistan's opportunity for a viable central government? If poppy eradication efforts are successful, will it prove fatal to the economy and the government? If anti-narcotics efforts fail, and they are failing, will opium profits permit the Taliban, Al-Qaeda, and other private militias to grow stronger? Either way, Afghanistan's dependence on this fatal flower threatens America's continuing war on terrorism.